Please subscribe, like, comment, and share. Don't forget to hit the bell. Let's dive into the thrilling story. A Moon That Watches Us story begins as it started with a glow. One night, the moon, our moon, began to shine brighter than ever before. It wasn't the soft, silvery light people were used to. No, this was different. It was a harsh, almost electric glow, like a spotlight aimed straight at Earth. At first, people thought it was a trick of the atmosphere, or maybe a rare lunar event. But as the hours passed, the glow didn't fade. It grew stronger, pulsing faintly, as if the moon itself had come alive. In a small town in Colorado, nestled at the foot of the Rocky Mountains, a young girl named Lily Carter was the first to notice it. She was sitting on her porch, her knees pulled up to her chest, staring at the sky. The night was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you feel like the whole world is holding its breath. Lily loved nights like this. She loved counting the stars and tracing the shapes of the constellations. But tonight, something felt off. "Dad," she called, her voice trembling. "Something's wrong with the moon." Her father, Tom Carter, rushed outside. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a kind face. But now his expression was filled with worry. He looked up at the moon, his eyes narrowing. The glow was unmistakable, and it made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. "That's not normal," he muttered, his deep voice tinged with unease. Lily's best friend, Max Turner, ran over from next door. Max was a curious boy with messy brown hair and a knack for figuring things out. He was always tinkering with gadgets or taking apart old radios, much to his parents' annoyance. "What's going on?" he asked, panting as he skidded to a stop beside Lily. "The moon," Lily said, pointing. "It's watching us." Max frowned, pushing his glasses up his nose. "Watching us? That's crazy." But as the three of them stared at the moon, they couldn't shake the feeling that Lily was right. The moon's craters seemed to shift, forming patterns that looked like eyes. Two large, shadowy eyes staring down at Earth. "Do you see it?" Lily whispered, her green eyes wide with fear. Tom nodded slowly. "I see it." Max swallowed hard. "This is so weird. What does it mean?" No one had an answer. The three of them stood there in silence, the moon's eerie glow casting long shadows across the porch. It felt like the world had stopped, like time itself was holding its breath. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, the glow flickered and dimmed. The moon returned to its normal, silvery self, but the feeling of being watched didn't go away. "We should tell someone," Max said, breaking the silence. Tom nodded. "Yeah, but who's going to believe us?" Lily hugged her arms around herself, shivering despite the warm night air. "What if it happens again? What if it's not just the moon?" Her words hung in the air, heavy and unspoken. None of them wanted to think about what that might mean. But as they turned to go inside, a faint sound reached their ears, a low, humming noise like a distant engine. It was coming from the sky. Lily froze, her heart pounding. "Do you hear that?" Tom and Max stopped, listening. The sound grew louder, more distinct. It wasn't an engine. It was a voice. A deep, robotic voice echoing across the night. "Prepare," it said. Asterisk, "they are coming." Asterisk, and then, just like that, the sound was gone. The three of them exchanged uneasy glances. Whatever was happening, it was bigger than the moon, bigger than any of them could imagine. And it was only just beginning. The next morning, the whole town was buzzing about the moon. News channels were flooded with reports of the strange glow, and scientists from all over the country were scrambling to explain it. But no one had any answers. Lily, Max, and Tom decided to visit the local observatory, where Tom's old friend, Dr. Sarah Collins, worked. Dr. Collins was a brilliant astronomer with short black hair and a no-nonsense attitude. She had always been fascinated by the mysteries of the universe, and if anyone could figure out what was going on, it was her. The observatory was a small, dome-shaped building perched on a hill overlooking the town. Inside, the walls were lined with screens displaying images of the night sky. Dr. Collins was pacing back and forth in front of her computer, her eyes darting from one screen to another. "This isn't natural," she muttered, more to herself than to anyone else. "The moon's light, the patterns, it's like it's trying to communicate." "Communicate?" Max asked, his eyes wide. With us. Dr. Collins nodded, her expression serious. Yes, and I think I've figured out how. She pressed a button, and a strange sound filled the room. It was a series of beeps and clicks, almost like a code. The sound was eerie, sending chills down Lily's spine. This is a message, Dr. Collins said. A message from the moon. Lily's heart raced. What does it say? Dr. Collins hesitated, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. I don't know yet, but I'm working on it. Max leaned closer to the screen, his curiosity piqued. Can we help? Dr. Collins smiled faintly. Maybe, but this isn't going to be easy. The message is encoded in a language we've never seen before. Tom crossed his arms, his brow furrowed. So how do we decode it? We start by looking for patterns, Dr. Collins explained. Every language has rules, even if we don't understand them yet. If we can find those rules, we can crack the code. The four of them spent the next few hours poring over the data, searching for anything that might help them understand the message. Lily's eyes grew heavy, but she refused to give up. There was something about the moon's strange behavior that felt personal, like it was trying to tell her something. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Dr. Collins let out a triumphant shout. I've got it! Lily, Max, and Tom crowded around her, their hearts pounding with anticipation. What does it say? Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Collins took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she read the decoded message aloud. Asterisk, prepare. They're coming. Asterisk, the room fell silent, the weight of the words hanging in the air. Who's coming? Max asked, his voice shaky. Dr. Collins shook her head, her expression grim. I don't know, but whatever it is, it's not good. Lily felt a chill run down her spine. The message was the same as the voice they had heard the night before. It was a warning, a call to action. But from who? And why? Before anyone could say anything else, the observatory's alarms blared. The screens flickered, and a new image appeared, a live feed of the moon. The craters were shifting again, forming new patterns. But this time it wasn't just eyes. It was a map. What is that? Tom asked, his voice tense. Dr. Collins zoomed in on the image, her eyes widening in shock. It's a location, a set of coordinates. Where do they lead? Lily asked, her heart racing. Dr. Collins hesitated, her fingers flying over the keyboard. Somewhere in the desert. About 200 miles from here. Much front. What's out there? I don't know, Dr. Collins said. But we need to find out. The four of them exchanged uneasy glances. Whatever was happening, it was bigger than the moon. Bigger than any of them could imagine. And it was only just beginning. The coordinates led them to a remote stretch of desert, miles away from civilization. The sun blazed overhead, casting long shadows across the barren landscape. Lily, Max, Tom, and Dr. Collins had packed into Tom's old pickup truck, the back filled with supplies and equipment. No one spoke much during the drive. The weight of the moon's message hung heavy in the air, and the closer they got to the coordinates, the more uneasy they felt. When they finally arrived, there was nothing but sand and rocks as far as the eye could see. Are you sure this is the right place? Max asked, squinting against the glare of the sun. Dr. Collins double-checked her GPS. This is it. The coordinates are exact. Lily stepped out of the truck, her boots crunching on the dry ground. She shielded her eyes with her hand, scanning the horizon. There's nothing here, she said, her voice tinged with frustration. Maybe we're missing something, Tom said, joining her. Let's spread out and look around. The group fanned out, searching for anything that might explain why the moon had led them here. Minutes turned into an hour, and the heat began to take its toll. Just as they were about to give up, Max let out a shout. Over here, I found something. They rushed to his side, their hearts pounding. Max was standing next to a large, flat rock that looked like it had been placed there deliberately. On the surface of the rock were strange symbols carved deep into the stone. What is that? Lily asked, running her fingers over the symbols. They were unlike anything she had ever seen. Sharp, angular lines that seemed to pulse with an almost electric energy. Dr. Collins pulled out a notebook and began sketching the symbols. This is incredible, she murmured. It's the same language as the moon's message. So what does it say? Tom asked, his voice tense. Dr. Collins studied the symbols for a moment, her brow furrowed in concentration. It's a warning, she said finally. It says, beneath lies the key. Beware the Watchers. The Watchers? Max repeated, his voice shaky. What does that mean? Before anyone could answer, the ground beneath them began to tremble. Lily stumbled back, her heart racing as the sand shifted and swirled, revealing a hidden hatch buried beneath the surface. What the? Tom started, but his words were cut off as the hatch hissed open, revealing a dark, narrow staircase leading underground. The group exchanged uneasy glances. Do we go down there? Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Collins hesitated, then nodded. We have to. This is what the moon led us to. We can't stop now. Tom grabbed a flashlight from the truck and handed it to Lily. Stay close, he said, his voice firm. One by one, they descended the staircase, the air growing cooler with each step. The walls were smooth and metallic, like the inside of a spaceship. The deeper they went, the more Lily felt like they were being watched. At the bottom of the staircase, they found themselves in a large, circular chamber. The walls were covered in more of the strange symbols, and in the center of the room was a pedestal with a glowing orb resting on top. What is that? Max asked, his voice filled with awe. Dr. Collins stepped forward, her eyes wide. It's a map, she said, her voice trembling. A map of the solar system. But it's not like any map I've ever seen. Lily moved closer, her heart pounding. The orb pulsed with a soft, blue light, and as she reached out to touch it, the room suddenly came alive. The symbols on the walls began to glow, and a holographic image appeared above the pedestal. A massive, swirling vortex in space. What is that? Tom asked, his voice filled with dread. Dr. Collins shook her head, her face pale. I don't know, but whatever it is, it's coming this way. Before anyone could say anything else, the ground shook again, and a deep, rumbling voice echoed through the chamber. The voice echoed through the chamber, deep and resonant, sending shivers down their spines. Lily froze, her hand still hovering over the glowing orb. The holographic image of the swirling vortex pulsed ominously, casting eerie shadows on the walls. What do we do? Max whispered, his voice trembling. Before anyone could answer, the ground shook again, harder this time. The walls of the chamber began to shift, panels sliding open to reveal hidden alcoves. From the shadows emerged figures, tall, humanoid shapes with glowing blue eyes and metallic skin. They moved silently, their movements smooth and precise, like machines. The Watchers, Dr. Collins breathed, her voice filled with awe and fear. Tom stepped in front of Lily and Max, his arms outstretched protectively. Stay back, he warned, though his voice wavered. One of the Watchers stepped forward, its glowing eyes fixed on the group. It raised a hand, and a beam of light shot from its palm, projecting an image into the air. The image showed the moon, but it was different, cracked and broken, with strange structures jutting out from its surface. What is that? Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The Watcher's voice filled the chamber, deep and robotic. Asterisk, the moon is not what you believe. It is a machine built to protect your world. But now it is failing. Asterisk, failing? Dr. Collins repeated, her eyes wide. What do you mean? The Watcher's gaze shifted to her. Asterisk, the vortex you see is a threat. It is coming to destroy your world. The moon was designed to stop it, but it has been damaged. If it is not repaired, your world will be lost. Asterisk, Lily's heart raced. How do we repair it? The Watcher turned to her, its glowing eyes piercing. Asterisk, you must find the key to the moon's core. It is hidden, guarded by those who do not wish it to be found. Asterisk, where is it? Tom asked, his voice tense. The Watcher raised its hand again, and the holographic image changed. It showed a map of the world with a single location marked in red, a remote island in the middle of the ocean. That's thousands of miles away, Max said, his voice filled with disbelief. How are we supposed to get there? The Watcher's voice was calm but firm. Asterisk, time is short. You must go. The fate of your world depends on it. Asterisk, before anyone could respond, The ground shook violently, and the chamber began to collapse. "We need to get out of here," Tom shouted, grabbing Lily's arm. The group turned and ran, the watchers close behind. They scrambled up the staircase, the walls crumbling around them. By the time they reached the surface, the hatch had sealed itself, and the ground above it was smooth and unbroken, as if nothing had ever been there. The group stood there, panting and covered in dust, their minds racing. "What just happened?" Max asked, his voice shaky. Dr. Collins shook her head, her face pale. "I don't know, but we have to find that key. If what the Watcher said is true, we're running out of time." Lily looked up at the sky, where the moon hung silently, its glow faint but steady. "What if we can't do it?" she asked, her voice filled with fear. Tom placed a hand on her shoulder, his grip firm. "We have to try. We don't have a choice." As they climbed back into the truck, the weight of their mission settled over them. They had no idea what they were up against, or if they could even succeed. But one thing was clear: the moon was watching, and it was counting on them. The journey to the remote island was anything but easy. After hours of planning and gathering supplies, Lily, Max, Tom, and Dr. Collins boarded a small plane piloted by an old friend of Tom's, a grizzled man named Captain Jack. The plane rattled and groaned as it soared over the endless expanse of ocean, the sun dipping low on the horizon. "You sure about this, Tom?" Captain Jack asked, his voice gruff but kind. "This island's not on any map. Could be dangerous." Tom glanced back at Lily and Max, who were huddled together in a cramped cabin. "We don't have a choice," he said firmly. "We have to go." Lily stared out the window, her stomach churning with a mix of fear and excitement. The ocean stretched out below, vast and endless, and she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. "What do you think we'll find there?" Max asked, breaking the silence. Dr. Collins adjusted her glasses, her expression thoughtful. "If the Watchers were telling the truth, the key to the moon's core is hidden on that island. But we have no idea what's guarding it, or who." The plane began its descent as the island came into view. It was small and rugged, surrounded by jagged cliffs and dense jungle. A thick mist hung over the island, giving it an eerie, otherworldly feel. "This is as close as I can get," Captain Jack said, steering the plane toward a narrow strip of beach. "You'll have to go the rest of the way on foot." The group thanked him and climbed out of the plane, their boots sinking into the soft sand. The air was humid and heavy, filled with the sounds of chirping birds and rustling leaves. "Stay close," Tom said, leading the way into the jungle. "We don't know what's out here." The jungle was dense and dark, the canopy above blocking out most of the sunlight. The ground was uneven, covered in roots and vines that seemed to twist and coil like snakes. Lily stayed close to Max, her heart pounding with every step. After what felt like hours, they reached a clearing. In the center of the clearing was a massive stone structure covered in moss and vines. It looked ancient, like something out of a forgotten civilization. "This is it," Dr. Collins said, her voice filled with awe. "This must be where the key is hidden." As they approached the structure, the ground beneath them began to tremble. The vines shifted and moved, revealing a hidden entrance. "Do we go in?" Max asked, his voice shaky. Tom nodded. "We've come this far. We can't stop now." The group stepped inside, the air growing cooler and damper as they descended into the darkness. The walls were covered in the same strange symbols they had seen in the desert, glowing faintly in the dim light. At the end of the passage was a large chamber, filled with ancient artifacts and strange machines. In the center of the chamber was a pedestal, and on top of the pedestal was a small, glowing crystal. "The key," Dr. Collins whispered, her eyes wide. But before they could reach it, a deep, rumbling voice filled the chamber. "Asterisk, you are not worthy." Asterisk, the ground shook violently, and the walls began to close in. From the shadows emerged more watchers, their glowing eyes fixed on the group. "What do we do?" Lily asked, her voice filled with panic. Tom grabbed the crystal from the pedestal, his hands trembling. "We run." The group turned and fled, the watchers close behind. The walls of the chamber crumbled around them as they scrambled back to the surface, the crystal clutched tightly in Tom's hand. When they finally reached the clearing, they collapsed onto the ground, panting and covered in sweat. "We did it," Max said, his voice filled with disbelief. But as they looked up at the sky, they realized their journey was far from over. The moon's glow had grown brighter, and the vortex in the hologram was closer than ever. They had the key, but would it be enough? The journey back from the island was a blur. Captain Jack's plane rattled through the sky, the small glowing crystal resting in Lily's hands. It pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat, and she couldn't shake the feeling that it was alive. The group was silent, each lost in their own thoughts. The weight of what they had just done, and what still lay ahead, was almost too much to bear. When they finally landed, the world outside seemed different. The moon's glow was brighter than ever, casting an unnatural light over everything. People were gathered in the streets, staring up at the sky, their faces filled with fear and confusion. "We need to get to the observatory," Dr. Collins said, her voice urgent. "We have to figure out how to use the key before it's too late." The group piled into Tom's truck and sped through the empty streets. The observatory was dark when they arrived, the power flickering on and off. Inside, the screens were filled with static, except for one, a live feed of the moon. The vortex in the hologram was now visible in the sky, a swirling mass of darkness that seemed to grow larger with every passing second. "What do we do with the key?" Max asked, his voice trembling. Dr. Collins took the crystal from Lily and placed it on the main console. The moment it touched the surface, the screens came to life, displaying streams of data and images of the moon's interior. "It's a map," Dr. Collins said, her eyes wide. "A map of the moon's core. The key is meant to activate it." "Activate it how?" Tom asked, his voice tense. Dr. Collins hesitated, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "We need to send the key to the moon. It's the only way to repair the machine and stop the vortex." Lily's heart raced. "But how we get it there? We don't have a spaceship." Before anyone could answer, the ground shook violently and the lights flickered. The screens went dark, then lit up again, showing a live feed of the moon's surface. The craters were shifting, forming a new pattern, a symbol that looked like a doorway. "What is that?" Max asked, his voice filled with awe. Dr. Collins studied the symbol, her face pale. "It's a portal. The moon is opening a portal for us." "A portal?" Tom repeated, his voice filled with disbelief. "You mean we could just step through it?" Dr. Collins nodded. "Yes, but we have to hurry. The vortex is getting closer." The group exchanged uneasy glances. This was it, the moment they had been preparing for. But none of them were ready for what lay ahead. "I'll go," Lily said, her voice steady. "No," Tom said immediately. "It's too dangerous." "We don't have a choice," Lily argued. "The key chose me. I have to do this." Tom hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. "Okay, but I'm coming with you." Dr. Collins and Max stayed behind to monitor the portal from the observatory. Lily and Tom stepped outside, the moon's glow bathing everything in an eerie light. The portal was visible now, a swirling mass of energy hovering just above the ground. "Are you ready?" Tom asked, his voice filled with concern. Lily nodded, clutching the crystal tightly. "Let's go." They stepped through the portal, the world around them dissolving into a blur of light and sound. When they opened their eyes, they were standing on the moon's surface, the earth hanging in the sky above them. But they weren't alone. Standing in front of them was a figure, a humanoid shape with glowing blue eyes and metallic skin. It was one of the Watchers, but this one was different. It was larger, more imposing, and its voice was filled with authority. "You have come far," it said. Asterisk, but the final test awaits. Only the worthy can repair the machine. Asterisk. Lily's heart pounded as she stepped forward, the crystal glowing brighter in her hands. "What do I have to do?" The Watcher raised its hand, and the ground beneath them began to shift. A massive structure emerged from the surface, its walls covered in the same strange symbols they had seen before. "Enter the core," the Watcher said. Asterisk, "and prove your worth." Asterisk. Lily and Tom exchanged uneasy glances. This was it, the final challenge. But as they stepped toward the structure, They couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them, something far more dangerous than the watchers. The structure loomed before them, its metallic walls gleaming under the moon's harsh light. Lily clutched the crystal tightly, her heart pounding as she and Tom stepped inside. The air was cold and thin, and every breath felt like a struggle. The walls were covered in the same strange symbols they had seen before, glowing faintly in the dim light. "This place, it's alive," Lily whispered, her voice trembling. Tom nodded, his face pale. "Stay close. We don't know what's in here." The corridor led them deeper into the structure, the walls pulsing faintly as if in response to their presence. At the end of the corridor was a massive chamber, filled with strange machines and glowing orbs. In the center of the chamber was a pedestal, identical to the one they had seen on the island. "This is it," Lily said, her voice filled with awe. "This is where we have to use the key." She stepped forward, the crystal glowing brighter in her hands. But before she could place it on the pedestal, a deep, rumbling voice filled the chamber. "Asterisk, you are not alone." Asterisk. Lily froze, her heart racing. From the shadows emerged a figure, a humanoid shape with glowing red eyes and metallic skin. It was different from the Watchers they had seen before. Its movements were jerky and unnatural, and its voice was filled with malice. "Asterisk, you think you can repair the machine?" Asterisk had sneered. "Asterisk, you are fools. The machine was never meant to save you. It was meant to control you." Asterisk. Tom stepped in front of Lily, his fists clenched. "Who are you?" The figure laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "Asterisk, I am the Keeper, the one who ensures the machine's true purpose is fulfilled. And you are nothing but pawns." Asterisk. Lily's mind raced. The Watchers had said the machine was meant to protect Earth. But this was something else entirely. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice shaking. The Keeper stepped closer, its red eyes glowing brighter. "Asterisk, the machine was built by an ancient civilization, one that sought to control the stars themselves. But they failed, and the machine was left behind, a relic of their arrogance. The Watchers were created to guard it, to ensure no one could use it again. But you have brought the key, and now the machine will awaken." Asterisk. Lily's heart pounded. "What happens if it awakens?" The Keeper smiled, a cruel, twisted expression. "Asterisk, the machine will consume your world, just as it consumed theirs. And there is nothing you can do to stop it." Asterisk. Tom grabbed Lily's arm, his voice urgent. "We have to get out of here. Now." But before they could move, the ground beneath them began to shake. The walls of the chamber shifted, revealing hidden panels filled with glowing orbs. The machine was awakening. Lily looked down at the crystal in her hands, her mind racing. The Watchers had said the key was meant to repair the machine. But what if it was meant to destroy it? "Tom," she said, her voice steady. "I have to try." Tom hesitated, then nodded. "Do it." Lily stepped forward, the crystal glowing brighter than ever. She placed it on the pedestal, the chamber filling with a blinding light. The Keeper screamed, its form dissolving into nothingness as the machine began to collapse. The ground shook violently, and the walls began to crumble. Tom grabbed Lily's hand, pulling her toward the exit. "We have to go," he shouted. They ran through the crumbling corridor, the structure collapsing around them. When they finally reached the surface, the portal was still open, swirling with energy. "Jump!" Tom yelled. They leaped through the portal, the world around them dissolving into a blur of light and sound. When they opened their eyes, they were back on Earth, the observatory looming in the distance. The moon's glow had faded, and the vortex in the sky was gone. The machine had been destroyed, and the threat had been stopped. But as Lily looked up at the sky, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching them. Something far more dangerous than the machine.